I love that I get the easy roll with you guys. I just have to give the message. Ingrid's over here giving 17 different announcements. Several of them came like last minute, and like she didn't even say that, but like we threw it on way later than we should have, and she crushed it. I want you to think back when your first child was born. And if you don't have kids, don't worry. This metaphor, you're gonna follow along just fine. But think back when they were born. I don't care if you work at a preschool or if you volunteer in the nursery or if you hold your second cousin's baby on the occasion. You hold your baby for the first time and you become very aware. You have no idea what you're doing. Like you hold that thing, you're like, man, I'm wildly ill-equipped for this. And if you have any doubt of that, just watch a new dad change that first poopy diaper. Because that diaper's different. If you know, you know. And mom's not doing it because mom's had a tough week already and it just started. But dad's doing this, he's changing this, and it's just a different type of number two than you've ever seen before. It's different. You're like, man, I'm not equipped for this. Or maybe it's not parenting. Maybe you just got married and you're like, man, I had dating figured out. And then I got married. And then now I'm trying to figure out marriage and like, how do I navigate this? And we share a home together and like everything is like a conversation now. And I have to figure out what does it look like for me to love her or him well in the midst of trying to go where God is calling me. Or maybe it's coaching your kid's soccer team. Why are you coaching the soccer team? It's not because you've got experience. You're ill-equipped. You've never played soccer before in your life. But the best type of ability is availability. And you were there, so you were hired. You're the soccer coach. You've got no idea, or you buy IKEA furniture. I don't care if you are a construction engineer. You have no clue how to put that thing together. You're ill-equipped. But here's what you don't do. When you step into something that you need to do that you're not equipped for, here's what you don't do. Return to sender. You don't quit the soccer team. You don't return your kid back to, I don't even know where you'd return your kid. You don't stop being married. Like, you don't do that. Why? Because just because you're not equipped doesn't mean that you're not called. Which is going to bring us to a phrase that many of us in church world, we've heard. It's a cliche that we hear all the time, and yet it's too true for me to avoid. And it goes like this. God doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. Like, it's not about you feeling prepared or qualified or ready to step into the season that he is calling you to. It's about his call, following it wherever he leads, even if you don't feel ready or qualified for it. God equips the called. If you have your Bibles, I want to invite you to open up to Matthew chapter 28. While you get there, if we haven't met, I'm Josh. Really excited that we get to do this whole gathering thing together. And when I say gathering together, I'm not just talking about Sundays, that we get to do life together as a church in life groups, in community, where we are known, accepted, and able to step forward without fear of rejection. Like, that's what it looks like. And when I say accepted, what I'm not saying is we accept you as you are, but I am, but I'm saying that we're not leaving you where you are. We want you to come be a part of our community, and yet we want to step closer to the feet of Jesus as we move, that we can be accepted as we are, and yet called to something even better. That's what this community looks like. Where we're diving into today, we're going to dive into a little bit different of a process than we're used to. So normally, I come up here and I talk way too long, and then they're like, hey, Josh, you need to stop talking so much. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I get it, and then I do the same thing the next week. That's the normal process. This week, I'm going to have a hopefully much shorter conversation with you guys, and then we're going to have a panel come up here on stage. Because what I want to do today, we've got this phrase, and it's not just a phrase, we've got this mission. We've got a mission statement that we talk about all the time, and you might have questions about what it looks like to live that out. And so just quick pop quiz. Who knows? Actually, I'm going to start it. I'll start the mission statement, you finish it. We exist to... I've never been so proud. I thought there were going to be like 2 people, and there was all of y'all. That was awesome. That is our mission statement. If you didn't hear it, we exist to make and send disciples who love and live like Jesus. That is something that we push everything through as a filter in ministry. If it helps us make disciples, then we might do it. If it doesn't, we will not do it. That's how we vet things in ministry, and it's something that you and we're called to wrap our lives around. This isn't just a 180 Life Church thing. This is a disciple thing. If you're a disciple of Jesus, you are called to make and send disciples who love and live like him. And if we're being honest, this is not an easy place to do it. Like, this is a place where the ground spiritually is very hard. This is gardening season. Some of you are already prepared and ready. You've cleared out the garden. You're good to go. The ground here, the physical ground here, we know how to garden because things will grow whether we want it to or not. Like if you saw our garden last year at our home, one, embarrassing. We had no clue what we were doing. It was overgrown. There were weeds all over the place. We were like, we'll figure it out next year. We were growing melons that we didn't even plant. Like the ground here is good to go, and yet the spiritual ground here is way different. In fact, one of the wrestlings for us as Jenny and I were praying about moving here a year and a half ago, we would bring this to Wise Counsel and be like, hey, this is where we're praying about going. We think God's calling us into this. And the response over and over again was like, hey, that's New England. Like that's like a spiritual graveyard over there. And yet, that's why we're here. Like because Jesus is in the business of making dead things alive. Like that's why we're here, to till the soil, to plant the crop, and to watch it grow. Like you and I, we're here for a purpose, and just because it's difficult and just because you don't feel qualified doesn't mean that's not exactly where God is calling you to be. Check it out. Matthew 28, verse 16. This is known as the Great Commission, what we're about to unpack together. And the first two verses in this commissioning, I would say is often overlooked, and yet it's something that I'm going to keep bringing up over the next forever. Because we need to remember that this is a core piece of the commission of Jesus. Verse 16, it says this. It says, then the 11, hashtag Judas didn't make it. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshiped him. But some doubted. It almost feels like a tag in at the end. It's like, man, but some doubted. Now let's rewind, because we might just contextualize this for ourselves and be like, oh yeah, doubt makes sense. But does it make sense in this circumstance? They've seen the miracles. They've seen all the things that Jesus had done. They saw him predict his death, die, and then pull it off. Pull off the resurrection in an empty tomb. They saw all the miracles. They saw him walk into their home while the doors were locked. They saw the miracles. They had seen it all. And yet they, even in that moment, some of them doubted. And you might ask the question, well, okay, yeah, cool. What doubts were they doubting? Right? Because there's all sorts of things. Were they doubting their faith? Were they doubting that they should believe what they're seeing with their eyes? Because this is pretty wild that Jesus is back to life. Were they doubting their ability to pillage the gates of hell in the way that Jesus was calling them to? What were their doubts about? Well, here's the thing. I would contend that the specific doubts don't actually matter. The reason that it's vague is because every single one of us, no matter where you are, we have questions and wrestlings. Every single one of us has wrestled with doubts, and you're going to wrestle with doubt again. Doubt isn't necessarily a bad thing as much as it's we just need to realize the lie for what it is. Like we need to look our doubts in the eyes and say, you know what, I see the lie that you are, and I trust Jesus. The antidote to your doubt is a trust and faith in him who calls us. And this is Jesus' response. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm known for that. This is the whole point of all that, the point of not trusting your doubts. Not knowing how to disciple and choosing to not disciple are not the same thing. Just because you doubt your ability in being a disciple maker, just because you're like, hey man, I don't actually feel qualified, I don't know what I'm doing, doesn't change the fact that you're called. Just because you're not equipped doesn't mean you're not exactly where you're supposed to be. In fact, I'd word it this way, that your lack of equippedness doesn't affect the volume of the call. That Jesus has still called you, still invited you into something way bigger than yourself, and whether you feel equipped or not, worthy or not, qualified or not, doesn't matter. He has made the call, and we are meant to trust him, not our doubts. See, we got this mission statement. We've talked about it. We will talk about it literally every time that we come in and gather together, and it goes like this. We exist to make and send disciples who love and live like Jesus. But today, I want to reframe it for you, because it's not just a we thing as in the church, it's a you thing. You exist to make and send disciples who love and live like Jesus, whether you feel like you're up for the task or not. In fact, I would say most of us probably don't feel up for it. By the time you feel up for it, that might be you kind of beating your chest and a little more hubris than you should be bringing into this building. Like it's not, what I'm not saying is that you get so prepared that you get to beat your chest and you can walk in the presence of God with some kind of swagger. What I'm saying is that with him, all things are possible. With him, he's the one who makes tombs empty. Not because they were empty, but because they were full and then we walk out. That life is found through him, and if he can do that, he can lead you to be the disciple maker that God has called you to be. Here's the deal. I understand the tension. Because we go, yeah, but like, I don't know how. That's okay. We're going to actually talk through that. That's the whole goal of this panel, is to be hyper practical. We go, well, but I don't think I've got it all figured out. I've never been discipled before. Probably not. Most of us haven't been. And yet, them not doing their part doesn't change the fact that you have a part. But I don't have time. Pause. Because this idea of not having time, honestly, that phrase means a lot more than I think we realize. When we use that phrase for things that God has called us to, that should be a check engine light on our faith. Because if I don't have time for the things that God has called me to, then what is so worthy of my time that I'm filling my schedule? Listen, I'm not saying you won't be busy. I don't need to fill my schedule. My schedule fills itself. The point is that when God calls me to something, I need to figure out what I can do to prioritize and make room for what he has called me to, not find time. I will never find time. I need to make time. How do I make time in my schedule for the things that God calls most worthy of that time? See, in Exodus 4, we're going to see the same wrestling that some of the disciples had in that moment. It said, but some doubted. And Moses was not exempt from this. You are not exempt from this. This is a wrestling that all of us are going to have. Exodus 4, verse 10, it says this. It says, Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I have never been eloquent, neither in the past nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. God has called him to lead God's people, and his response was, but I don't word good. Like, I don't have the whole word thing figured out, Lord. Like, clearly, you have mistaken. You should call somebody else because I don't have what it takes. Maybe this is your wrestling. Man, like, God, like, I know you say I'm meant to be a disciple maker. I'm meant to go out and make disciples of all nations. I get that. Like, I understand it, but my Bible knowledge isn't enough. Listen, I'm not saying remain there. We should grow in this. We shouldn't be biblically illiterate Christians. Like, we should understand the word. And yet, God's call isn't contingent upon you feeling qualified or equipped. He equips the called. He's invited you into this in the same way that he does with Moses. Here's what he says. God's response in verse 11. It's awesome. The Lord said to him, who gave human beings their mouths? Who makes them deaf or mute? Who gives them sight or makes them blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now go, I will help you speak and will teach you what to say. In other words, God's got it. Like, he's got it figured out. He's got a plan, and your doubts are not trustworthy when the King of the universe says, I am calling you into something far bigger than you could ever come up with on your own. I want you to think about the level of hubris required when God calls you and you say, yeah, but God, I know better. Like, God, you don't understand. I don't word good like Moses. I know that that's bad grammar. It's fine. I don't word good. How much hubris does it require to say, but I know better than God. I know better than him. Some of us have kind of flipped that argument. You say, well, I get it. We're supposed to disciple someone, but isn't it prideful? Isn't it prideful for me to go up to someone and say, hey, I would love to disciple you. I don't think you're spiritually as mature as me. Do not word it this way. I don't think you're as spiritually mature as me, and so therefore I can bring you up to my high place in high standing with the Lord. That's one. If you're asking the question, it's probably not coming from a place of pride. It could. I've seen it. But if you're asking that question, it's usually a wrestling for you about how you're going to be perceived rather than it actually being a pride issue. I want you to think about how selfish that is. For you to say, hey, I don't want to be perceived a certain way. And so even though I've been where they are and I know how they can grow and take their next steps in faith, even though I see them wrestling and struggling, I'm going to leave them where they are because I'm worried about how I will look. Listen, if you see someone that you can lead closer to the feet of Jesus, one, do it. And two, as you do it, you know what you're doing? You're taking steps closer to Jesus too. Like, he has invited you into a call that you could not accept on your own, that you couldn't qualify for on your own, that you couldn't become worthy of on your own, and yet he's invited you into it, not because you're deserving or equipped, because he's ready to equip you. That's the whole point of the church. What? To equip the saints. That's us. There's no hierarchy of people in the past. That's us. We are meant to be those people, disciples on a mission, taking ground for the kingdom. That is the invitation. That is the call. Jesus continues in response to their doubts, and he gives the Great Commission. They doubt, and he goes, all authority has been given to me on earth and in heaven, therefore go. He said, hey, you want to know how much authority I've got? Because I've got a little bit, I don't know, all of it. Like, I've got all the authority. You want to know why you shouldn't trust your doubts? Because the one who has authority is the one giving you the call. The one who is worthy of being followed is the one giving you that call. And he continues. He says, hey, go and make disciples. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit. Here's what he's saying. You've got your doubts and you've got your call. Which one are you going to trust? And when we trust ourselves, when we trust our doubt instead of God, that is rebellion. That is us going our own way, turning our own way, thinking that we know better. And yet Jesus gives us the command, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. When we started doing in-person baptisms a little over a year ago, one of the things I said was based on this passage. I said this, I want you to baptize more people than me. I want you to be so involved in your community. I want you to be so involved in leading your family that you're baptizing more people than me. Why? Are we keeping count? No. The point is this. What do disciples do? They baptize in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Like, that's why when we get over here on Easter Sunday and we're baptizing people, it's moms and dads baptizing their kids. It's life group leaders baptizing people from their group. It's disciple makers taking seriously the call that Jesus has given them. And so, a side note on that, if you haven't been baptized, maybe this is your chance. Easter Sunday is going to be a chance where we're going to have baptisms during service where we're going to celebrate what God is doing. Now, baptism isn't a saving work. It's a response to the saving work of Jesus. We call it this, an outward profession of an inward change. So if you have been saved by Jesus, if you've placed your faith in him, the next step, not the, hey, once I get qualified, once I get it all together, the immediate response to placing your faith in Jesus is supposed to be baptism. You'll see it throughout the book of Acts. So if that's you, if you're like, hey, I'm following Jesus, I'm in on this Jesus guy, I want to give him my life, I have given him my life, but I haven't been baptized. Maybe that's your next step. Here's what you do. Jump onto our website. You can register on there. The deadline for this is end of day next Sunday. Like, you need to register by then, and here's why. A couple reasons. One, we've got multiple services, and we're not going to dunk you twice, so we got to figure out which one you're going to be a part of. Second reason, and more importantly, we want you to understand what you're stepping into. We want to make sure that you understand your relationship with Jesus. We want to make sure that you understand what baptism actually is. So we're going to have a conversation that we're going to navigate with you through that. So that's important. Baptism. Do it. He continues, he says, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you, and surely I will be with you to the very end of the age. So what we're seeing here is Jesus saying, hey, I'm not leaving you abandoned. I'm not leaving you on the side of the road. I'm giving you the roadmap. You're going to baptize. You're going to teach. You're going to walk beside people, and you're not going to do it alone. Which is why we're going to have our panel come forward right now. If you're part of the panel, you can step forward. And this is a group of people who are actively living out their call to be a disciple maker. They're being discipled, some of them are discipling actively. And there's really kind of a wide array of backgrounds here that we were trying to reach to. And here's why. Because we all have questions. We might hear the church language of make disciples, and your question should rightly be, but how? And what we want to do today is we want to unpack that really practically. And so what we did with our life groups, if you're a part of them, hopefully you saw this happen, is a couple weeks ago we asked life groups, hey, what are your questions about discipleship? Like, what is the piece that is missing or that you're trying to figure out so that you can press into the call that God has for you more intentionally? And so what today is going to be is a hyper-practical conversation of what it looks like for you to actively live that out and step into that call. So with that said, Crystal, passing the baton to you, you are now in charge.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, I didn't get a mic check earlier. So I am going to be moderating, and we have several questions that people have sent in from life groups, and so we're going to be asking all these individuals these questions, or I'm going to be asking them. And first, we're just going to start off with, if each of you we can start with Ben, and you can just tell us your name, your role in the church, and how long you have been a disciple maker.
My name is Ben Valentine. My role at the church is worship director and young adults director, and I have been disciple making for about 6 months, 7 months.
My name is Tanisha Noah. I am a middle school and preteen director, and I haven't officially started a discipleship relationship, but I have been leading a playgroup for about 2 years.
Hi, I'm Jenny, and
Jenny.
I have been in discipling relationships, both being discipled and actively discipling others for 10 years now. And I am Josh's wife. I'm a volunteer at the church. All the things.
I don't need that.
Great. This is going great.
Love it. I'm Josh. I think we met when I was doing the in front of the stage thing. Quick clarification, just so you guys know, because there's two sides to a discipling relationship. There's disciple making, where you're making a disciple, and there's also being a disciple and being discipled. So Tanisha, I'm gonna pass it back to you because I know that you do have some experience with that.
I do. I have been discipled by Jen Byrne for probably at least a year, maybe more, I would say. Yeah.
That's great.
Josh, did you want to say how long you've been disciple making? I don't know if you said that.
Since 2014.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask this first question to you, Josh. Is some people think that a mentorship relationship and a discipleship relationship are the same thing? Are they or are they not?
Yeah, so there are pieces to the pie for discipleship that we get confused. So I know it's a little weird for me to start. I'm not going to talk that much, I promise, maybe. So there are pieces to the pie for discipleship. So mentorship, let's break that apart, because the reason that we don't call them a mentor is because mentorship is usually hyper-focused on teaching a talent or ability. And so when you've got a job that you're trying to be raised up in, you might have a mentor who helps you learn how to use Excel spreadsheets, or a mentor who teaches you how to be a better teacher, or whatever it is that you're pressing into. Discipleship is a bigger umbrella than that. It's about growing in your walk with Jesus. And so it could focus on specific things like teaching or sharing the gospel or any number of things, but it's not limited to that. It's about you growing as a disciple and growing in your ability to make disciples. And then the other piece to this is people will ask, well, evangelism and discipleship are they the same thing? And I would say no. So evangelism is sharing the gospel. Discipleship is about equipping disciples, which means that evangelism should absolutely be a part of discipleship. So it falls under that umbrella. Most people that I disciple, I am walking through, and even role-playing, where I'll say, hey, lead me to Jesus, I'm ready. And they'll practice through that, and they'll flex some of those muscles, but they're not the same. Discipleship is a bigger umbrella than just one thing.
And I'm also going to ask you this quickly before moving to everyone else, but what about discipleship culture? What does that look like?
So discipleship culture, maybe it's language that I haven't used enough from the stage, but it's something that we're aiming at. And so I'll give you a really easy example of what discipleship culture would look like. 2 years from now, it's my hope. Right now we've got 2 staff up here. You've got my bride, who is fully qualified to be up here without me. And then Tanisha. My hope eventually would be 2 years from now for this to be all volunteers. Like you guys carrying the mission, saying, hey, I'm serious about this. I've been doing this for a while now. That's what discipleship culture looks like, giving it away. And that's my hope.
Yeah, I'm just going to add to that really quickly. Discipleship, it's a reproducible discipleship. So the goal is to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples. And so it's not just making disciples. A part of all of that is genuinely being in life together. And so I just was going to add that to it.
That's great.
And Jenny, we can keep this question on you as well. So people who are out here that are interested in discipleship, how are they able to identify someone to disciple them, or for them to disciple someone?
Yeah, I think a big piece in when you're looking for somebody, I'll speak to the to disciple you part. If you're looking for someone to disciple you, I would say first start by just praying. That's always going to be the first step. Like pray for a name, pray for what you're looking for. And then realistically, you're really looking for somebody who is farther along in their walk with Jesus than you. So you're looking for somebody who is more spiritually mature than you. Oftentimes when I'm looking for somebody to disciple me, I'm also looking at that piece, the spiritual maturity piece first, but I'm also looking at the life stage piece. Like we've got little kids. I need a lot of help with that. I need somebody who's been through it. And so I'm looking at those two major pieces. They have to be more spiritually mature, and they also, ideally for me, I like them to be kind of in the next life stage. So I would say that's a good piece of it. And then as far as when I'm looking for someone to disciple, it really is like somebody, it's so easy to do discipleship with somebody that you're naturally already in life with. And so I would say start looking, a great vehicle for discipleship is life groups. And so when I first started coming back to the Lord, I was at church and they spoke about life groups every single week. And I was like, okay, I finally get it. I'll sign up for this life group. I went to a random lady's house, which is very outside of my comfort zone. But through that group, I was able to kind of find somebody to walk beside me. And so I think that's something that's really important. It's a really good vehicle for finding either people to disciple you or people for you to disciple.
That's good.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Jenny. And Tanisha and Ben, we'll leave this next question to you two. How do you know if you are ready to disciple another person, and can they be younger than you and even a lot older than you?
I'm so sorry. Can you say the question again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, it's fine. How do you know if you're ready to disciple another person? So how do you know if you're ready? Just thinking about people who are in here like, am I ready? Am I not ready? And also, can you disciple someone who is older than you? Or also, like, another way of looking at this question is, can someone younger or a lot older than you disciple you?
So for me, I really struggled with a lot of anxiety, I think, towards the responsibility of discipleship, and the thought that I have to arrive at a place where I have confidence in myself, that I'm ready, and that I can share to someone and kind of raise them up. Exactly how Josh said not to do it. And it was in coming here and in hearing the mission statement and realizing we do exist, but like for me, I exist to make and send disciples who love and live like Jesus. So if I am growing and working on loving and living like Jesus, then I'm qualified. That doesn't mean for every single person, but there is somebody within your circle or within your sphere who you can come alongside. And so that made a huge difference. And instead of counting myself out, I was looking for the opportunity to step into what God had called me. And in praying over that, Lord, if I am supposed to do this, I believe that I am, will you highlight people in my community around me who I can step in and do that or offer discipleship? And then as far as older and younger, I would definitely say that you can. It's really a mark of spiritual maturity first, like Jenny said, understanding that if you are in humility, maybe at a point where you can encourage someone to where you are, then the age part doesn't really matter. There might be some natural components of respect of how you go about it, but if we're all walking in love and humility, then the age wouldn't be a factor.
Okay.
So I think I agree with what Ben said. I think for me, I felt very unqualified as well. And this past year, I've just been kind of saying my motto, and I've been saying to a lot of people, just, God, I know you have given me all these gifts and all these things, and I'm just gonna be open to what you have for me. So that's really been my mission this year, and just saying yes to things, even though I'm nervous. Like right now, this is not my natural thing to be up here talking. I can come and I can sing, but talking is not my first thing. So, but I know that God has been telling me to step into different places this year, and I've just been open to that.
That's good.
Okay. Thanks, Tanisha. I don't know, maybe you can speak to this a little bit, because I'm not sure about how you and Jen went about this, but for someone who is here looking for a discipleship relationship, how would they go about asking someone to disciple them without feeling awkward or feeling pressure about that?
Yeah, I think just ask. just ask straight out. And I think, once we, where our strive is to have a discipleship culture, and everyone is looking for people to disciple and people to disciple them, and it's not so much of a pressure and awkward because, and I think just like God will lead you, I think. Sorry, I lost my train of thought, but.
Did you ask Jen or did Jen ask you?
I think she asked me.
Okay.
It's a repressed memory.
I think she asked me.
Okay, no, that's fine. I'm wondering if one of you can speak, I don't know, maybe this is Jenny or even Ben, speak about like you asking someone to disciple you. Because that's almost like, feels like you're asking someone out on a date or, and like, what if they say no? So, yeah.
I was really terrified to ask the couple of guys that I'm discipling right now. And I think that part of that fear is just the responsibility, not taking it lightly. But a piece of that is if I'm about to step into something that could be my calling, it's the other person's calling, and then of course the enemy is going to try and hit you with every disqualifying statement, every bit of fear. And so I determined before I went in, I'm going to be more concerned about missing what God has for me and this person than I am about them saying no, because maybe they don't have the time to. And after that, I feel like I felt more peace, and so I didn't come into the conversation with that stress, with that pressure. I was able to ask, hey, I would really like to disciple you and continue these conversations and really grow in the Lord together. Is that something that you'd have time for? Took a lot of the pressure off.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, Ben. I think for me, the uncomfortable piece, Jesus is really, really good at putting me into uncomfortable situations all the time. And I think really that's the heart of it, though. Like at the end of the day, am I going to risk it for the kingdom or am I not? And I know that I am called as a follower of Jesus to make disciples. And so realistically, am I going to risk it or am I going to sit in my comfort? And so the Lord has really taken that and ran with it. But I think I wrestle with what Josh talked about during the message of like, who am I to come up to somebody and say like, oh, I would love to walk beside you. It's, so scary to ask. But, at the end of the day, he put that person's name on my heart just repeatedly. And it just got to the point where like, if I was not going to ask them to come alongside in a discipling relationship, I really did not feel like I was going to be in obedience to his call.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, Jenny, or tell us a little bit about like how your discipleship relationships work, like how often you meet and what that looks like?
Yeah, I love this question because I love to get hyper logistical with it. Josh goes to like the spiritual side, so I can let you speak to that. But like,
I don't even know what that means.
I think a lot of times we talk a lot about discipleship, but then maybe you're like me and you're leaving and you're like, okay, but how do I do it? And so for me, they oftentimes, and there's no cookie cutter, right? Like even every single one of my discipleship relationships have looked different. There's no cookie cutter recipe for how to do it. It is, for me, what it often looks like, not all the time, but what it often looks like is trying intentionally to be in life with that person. So having touch points throughout the week with them, but then I often will also try to meet with them once a week intentionally and sit down and have coffee and just talk about their life. And so if you're trying to figure out how to start a discipling relationship, the first thing I always start with is just getting their story and sharing mine, and so I'll share my story, and that allows me to be vulnerable and then have them share their story. And that is a great jumping off point because now we're known, and we can move from there. And so I think it can look like that, but there's different seasons for everything. So right now, while I'm teaching and then, trying to also keep food on the table in my home, it's a very busy season of life. And so a lot of times in this season for me, it looks like, trying to get together every couple weeks, once a month, still having those touch points throughout the week, but then when summer comes, I can really ramp up my intentional meetings.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Tanisha and Ben, do you mind just speaking a little bit into that quickly too? From your perspective?
Yeah. So for me, I'm speaking from being discipled by someone, and I agree. Like it's not really a set schedule. I think it's great and preferred to have a touch point throughout the week with the person that you're in a discipleship relationship with. And I believe it can look like many things. I think for me, we started with our testimonies. We told our whole story, kind of not holding anything back and just saying our whole story and just being accepting of one another with that. And we just kind of move from there. And we just catch each other up on our lives and what's happening in our lives, and if there's things that we need to challenge each other on or encourage each other with. I think that's a great thing. And also, we've done books together about things that we've been struggling with or that we would really like some extra resources in our life. So that's a great thing that we've done together. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the guys that I disciple, when we meet, we walk about 4 miles. There's a spot that we really like, and we just walk and we talk about different parts of Scripture that we've been reading. Sometimes we'll go through different books of the Bible and different chapters that have stuck out. It's just about life, about struggles, things like that. But we like to do it just outside walking. Another guy we meet, we usually grab a meal, and we meet not every single week, but every other week. And so I've got some built-in touch points where we're still getting that contact, but it just works better for his schedule, and that's more relaxed. We'll grab something to eat, sit, talk, catch up. And then for me, in the discipleship relationship where I'm being discipled, that's honestly like a place for me to come and just say, okay, I've been dealing with this, or I'm having a really hard time, whether it's with finances or being kind to my wife. How does life and this discipleship walk, where do those things meet? And where can I hear from you where my blind spots might be, and where I can kind of reveal more of what's going on and have someone hold me accountable and encourage me?
Awesome. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ben.
to build off that, because what you're seeing here is there's no cookie cutter answer, because God didn't print us out with a cookie cutter. Every person is different, your context is different, which means that we don't have this one workbook fits all solution where you take them through this workbook and they will be the most mature disciple ever. That's not how people work. And so it's know where they are. If you understand where they are, then you can know what they need to take their next step and then help them get there. Like that's what discipleship, so it could be a workbook, it could be a book, it could be organic conversations where you're sitting down saying, hey, where are you bleeding and how can I apply pressure? Like how can I help? There are any number of answers to this question. And so the biggest thing is, if you're in a discipling relationship and you're like, hey, what does this look like? How can I have resources and tools? Reach out. Like your life group leader, we as a staff, we as a church, we want to partner with you. You're not upriver without a paddle. Like we want you to be fully equipped, which means that sometimes you're going to get there and need to ask questions, and we're here to help.
Okay, thank you. So the next question is, what does someone do if they've asked someone to disciple them, but the timing isn't right, or they said no? And what if they've tried discipleship before and it just like kind of didn't work out? What should they do?
Yeah, so if we're afraid, jumping back to the question about it being awkward and asking, and like if we're afraid of it being awkward, then we are not going to do all kinds of things that Jesus called us to. There are going to be things, sharing the gospel, sometimes it's awkward. Like that's a reality to it, and yet we're called to it. And so if we're using a list of excuses not to follow God's call, we're looking a whole lot like Jonah and heading to Tarshish, when really we're meant to be going to Nineveh. We're meant to be going to the place that God's word is meant to be. And so I would say on that, I think one of the ways that question was worded on the paper is, what if they betray me, or we've been betrayed before? And I just think about, man, like what if that was Jesus' mindset? It wasn't. Like obviously he was like #worth it, and he did it for us. And yet, that so quickly becomes our mindset of like, hey, if I'm vulnerable, if I share with somebody, what if they hurt me? Here's the reality. They will. Like someone is going to hurt you. Someone is going to break your trust. It's happened to me. It will happen to you if you intentionally follow the call of Jesus. And at the end of it, you're going to say #worth it.
Okay. And Jenny, I want to ask you this question. can someone be in a discipleship relationship if they feel like they are not living a life as a disciple? Like, who are they to tell someone how to live? How would you answer that?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think there's kind of two sides to this, right? So one of them is it because you're afraid to be in a discipling relationship that you won't have all the answers? And truthfully, you won't. I don't, it's finding those answers together or reaching out to somebody. But realistically, the other side of this is it sounds like it's a really good chance to get into a discipling relationship. It's a really good chance to go be filled through discipleship, and being able to lay it all out there, being able to be fully known, fully loved, fully accepted, and also encouraged in your own spiritual walk. Because in a discipling relationship, like it's not just sitting where you are, right? It's genuinely trying to walk beside each other to grow in your relationship with the Lord. And through that, ideally, the making disciples who make disciples, you will be able to then have the confidence and the courage to go out and disciple on your own. Yeah, but I will also speak to, you can really only lead somebody to where you've been, right? So if you are struggling in your life, and I mean, I'm struggling in so many areas too, it's the spiritual maturity side of it. And so looking for somebody who maybe is not as far along in their walk with the Lord as you, and partnering and discipling that person.
That's good. So Jenny was saying maybe the priority is be discipled. So find somebody to walk beside you intentionally, and that's really important because what we don't need is more Joshes, right? Like my goal should never be, hey, come be like me. It's, hey, I'm stepping closer to Jesus. Would you like to come along for the journey? And so what you're seeing there is one, a prioritization where sometimes you need to be filled up first, like Jenny's saying. The other piece I just want us to be aware of, because we can easily put a benchmark of like, well, I need to be this mature in order to get on the ride. And really what it is if you are a spiritual infant, one, be discipled. That should be a priority. But the person discipling you is going to help you share the gospel. Some of the best sharers of the gospel, evangelists that I know, just met Jesus because they are on fire and they don't care who knows. And that's an equipping piece of, man, like you can walk beside somebody still and bring them to where you are. Just don't let them outpace you. Like your job is to continue growing as a disciple, and having one foot in the world and one foot in the kingdom probably is a better indicator that you need somebody walking beside you and they can help equip you to do the other. But put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
That's good.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. Let's kind of move over to family and parents discipling their children. Can you talk about what should their goal be in discipling their child and how they can integrate that naturally just into the family rhythm?
Yeah, so I would challenge all parents to be destination-minded. In the same way in discipleship, what's the goal? Because there is a goal, and discipleship is a vehicle, it's not the target. And so when we're discipling our kids, because it's us.
Thanks for that.
We have three goals that we go for. We want our kids to love God, we want them to love others, and we want them to enjoy being with us. Those are the three things we want. We want them to deeply love the Lord, to want to bring other people into that. But also, when they don't have to spend time with us, we would love for them to want to. That's our targets. And so thinking through that lens is a big piece of it. And that's the filter we push through our parenting. The other side to it is there are intentional things that every parent can do. And the challenge is ages, really less ages, and more the maturity of your kid matters. So what I do with a 5-year-old or what I do with my 7-year-old versus my 2-year-old is vastly different versus a teenager. It's going to change and evolve. A couple tools that I would point you to is play I Spy with your kids. If you're playing spiritual I Spy, looking for the fingerprints of God and having that a key thing that you do on a daily basis, they're going to get really good at I Spy too. Having anchor statements to point them to, so phrases that can help them understand where you're headed is really important. So phrases like this for Lila right now would be, it's okay to be mad, it's not okay to be mean. What are we teaching? Well, an important truth that anger isn't the sin, but it can lead us to sin. And so equipping her, not to say her emotions don't matter, but how do I use my emotions and not allow my emotions to use me? And so there's pieces like that. I would say there's a ton of good books out there and resources you can dive into. We want to equip parents. That is deeply my heartbeat. If you are a parent, you made a tiny disciple. Now let's disciple them well. And so that's really what I would say. There's so many pieces to it. But that would be the short answer that I can give you.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, all of that, and, again, the hyper practical side of like, even at dinner, we'll ask, like, where did you see Jesus today? And when we first started asking that, the answers were kind of, hit or miss, and it took a while for Lila, our son, we try to get him to answer, but it's,
He mostly yells
yeah,
at us.
it just yells. But, for Lila, it's really great. She has some really profound answers now because that's a practiced muscle that she has grown.
Yep.
And so, she'll ask us before we have a chance to ask her now, which is awesome. But I will also speak to, as a disciple of our tiny humans, she is learning a lot just by watching my walk with Jesus.
Yep.
And so I do not have it all figured out. Lila knows that. Ezra knows that. I apologize frequently. I consistently try to point back to Jesus even in my own mistakes, and I think that matters. That is discipleship too. That is letting them watch. They are watching you walk with the Lord, and they are learning how to walk with the Lord by how you do it.
Yep. And on that, I would say like a key phrase that we can know when discipling our kiddos is take them with you. Like you're already going places, you're already doing things, and that could be as simple as taking them to the soccer game or take them into your quiet time. Like Lila, every Friday morning, we do quiet time before I take her to school. And that's a special time that we both look forward to. She gets her croissant, I get time with my daughter, and we dive into the Word where she's going to ask questions, and then we leave with a phrase that she wrestles with throughout the rest of the week. Like that's really valuable. And so our kids desire to be taken along. A lot of times we leave them behind because they're going to slow you down. So when you're doing the dishes, they're going to slow you down and they're going to break a dish eventually. It's going to happen. # worth it. Like we want our kids to be raised up with us, which means that we're going to take them along. And that could mean something silly like taking my daughter along a disc golf tournament where we get disqualified because she has to go to the bathroom halfway through. It's going to happen. But she's seeing that I value her more than the game. She's seeing through our soccer games or through goofing off or whatever it is, intentional conversations, that I value her, I value my walk with Jesus, and I'm inviting her into that. Take them with you.
I think we can zoom out too from parenting, where that's true for all discipling relationships. Take them with you, like incorporate them into your life already. So I think the first time I met Jen Byrne, she invited me to go get haircuts with her daughters, like it's just like that. It's taking them with you. You can take them along and be intentional in that as well, like Ben on his walks.
That's good.
So I just want to quickly ask this last question because I know we're out of time. Is that when it comes to the husband and wife and maybe they are not aligned in how they disciple their kids, what should they do?
Yeah, I'll take this one because, we're over time, but that's my MO. So when you're not aligned in your marriage, there's a couple reasons for it. It could be that one's a believer and one's not. That's going to be a big challenge. Like, I'm not going to lie. Pray for your spouse. Invite them along on your journey. Do the best you can. But also, it's largely going to be on you to disciple your kids because they don't have a relationship with Jesus. They might give like strong work ethic and they might do some really cool things, but leading them into a deeper relationship with Jesus is going to largely be on you. I would say if you're not equally yoked in your marriage or you've got different priorities, this is where dialogue comes in. And so unity and oneness is a key target in marriage. Like God is not divisive and he's a God of order, which means that like our marriage should be unified anytime. And we've had instances, and it's not just the whole peanut butter debate or no peanut butter debate. Like there's times where Jenny and I are not aligned. And we have to have a conversation. Discipline was a key piece of it. Where I had one belief that I was raised up in, she had a different belief, and we had to figure out, hey, what does it look like for us to disciple our kids intentionally, which means occasionally, at times, sometimes more than occasionally, disciplining them. And that was a conversation where if we're seeking oneness and we're seeking Jesus, like that's not too hard to even reach. And I even think about a situation that happened last night where Jenny reached out to someone that we trust as counsel. And she was like, hey, what did you do? Because no one has arrived. Like we all have opportunities to grow. And so seeking outside counsel, whether it's there's disunity in your marriage and then you go, hey, can we have somebody lead us through a conversation to seek unity, or just a conversation with your spouse about seeking that? It really comes through healthy dialogue. And honestly, as a society, America has gotten really bad at it. We're really bad at having conversations with people who disagree with us or land somewhere else. And we, as believers in Jesus, should be much better at this. Because one, your belief does not attack my belief. And two, we're seeking, one, to invite, why am I counting so much? We're seeking to invite people into the kingdom and also to have unity in our marriages, which means we need to have healthy dialogues.
Okay. Thanks, Josh, Jenny, Tanisha, and Ben. Can we give it up for our panel?
So now it's time for the second half of my message. No, I'm just kidding. Well, hey guys, I hope what you've seen is that this is a starting line. Like what we just talked through probably raised more questions for you than it provided answers. And that's good. Like we want you to wrestle. We want you to ask questions. And really the key point of this is that you see that one, we don't have all the answers. And two, there are places that you can go to intentionally press into the call that God has for you. Being a disciple will eventually lead you to make disciples. Or at least that's the process that God has invited us into. So the challenge being, don't let where you are limit where He's calling you to be. Parents, step into it intentionally. If you're not a parent, step into it intentionally. Like we have a call of making disciples, and this might be the starting line, but it's not the finish line. Like Paul says, let's strive together towards the goal with everything that we've got. So I've got some questions that I want you to wrestle through. Some questions that I really want you to just kind of pray over and just ask the Lord, like, hey, where am I in this? Once I find the correct page to be on. Of course, it's the last one I go to. Where is my next step in being or making a disciple? I want you to pray on this. Like, where, God, like, what are you calling me to? Not the church, not 180, not whatever, you. Where are you called to be in being or making a disciple? What doubts am I trusting over the commission that Jesus has given me? Is the volume of my doubts louder than His voice? Am I making excuses about time? Time is a real thing. But if He has called you, what could be more worthy? Are there obstacles that I have allowed to prevent myself from fully following Jesus and you being a disciple? Are there stumbling blocks? Have you tripped? Are you slowing down? Is there a person right now that you are in relationship with that you should enter into a discipling relationship with? That could be being discipled by them, that could be discipling them, whatever, but is there a person in your life right now that you can take the practicality of the conversation and lead it to movement in your life? Would you pray with me? Jesus, help us to not allow this to be a moment, but a movement. Help this to be a chance for us to see you show off in beautiful ways. Help this to be a chance for us to fully step into the call you've given us. God, we're not equipped. Equip us. God, we don't feel qualified. Qualify us. God, invite us to be the disciple makers you have called us to be, and let no lie win. In your name, amen.